Now we go to New York, where a federal appeals court on Thursday gave a green light to the NYPD's controversial stop and frisk policy. Now, back in August, Judge Shira Scheindlin ruled that stop and frisk is unconstitutional as it unlawfully targets minorities, and she said that police made at least 200,000 stops between 2004 and 2012 without any reasonable suspicion. She blocked further use of the tactic until the NYPD makes changes. But that ruling right there, was tossed out on Thursday by a three-judge panel in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, meaning stop and frisk is once again good to go. Not only that, the appeals court removed Judge Scheindlin from the case, citing impropriety from the bench after the judge made some opinionated comments on stop and frisk to the media. Next week, Democratic nominee Bill de Blasio is expected to win the New York City mayoral race. He's been a critic of stop and frisk and released a statement in response to yesterday's ruling saying, "I'm extremely disappointed in today's decision. We shouldn't have to wait for reforms that both keep our communities safe and obey the Constitution." To talk more about this case, I'm joined by RT's Anastasia Churkina from New York. Welcome, Anastasia. Hey, so in light of this ruling from yesterday, what's the next legal step?
Well, Sam, now that Judge Scheindlin, which is, we have to say, she's considered by the judiciary community here in New York to be one of really the top judges and a very good professional, and she has been following the stop and frisk policies for years. And that trial, when she considered the application of some of the stop and frisk policies unconstitutional, lasted 10 weeks. Certainly, she was somebody who was very familiar with the topic. Now that she has been booted off this case by this appeals court, what's going to happen is a new judge will step in to look into exactly what it was, whether or not the suggestions that she had made over the unconstitutionality of the stop and frisk policies, what exactly will happen with them next. We have to keep in mind that what she exactly suggested was that the stop and frisk program should be at least based on reasonable suspicions. It should be racially neutral, that there should be a prosecutor appointed to change some of these policies to make them more adequate, and that also some of the police officers should carry and wear video cameras to be able to see exactly what happens when these stop and frisk policies take place. And also a schedule of appeals has been set up extending all the way into 2014, when we will have a new mayor in New York City. So certainly that could change there in itself. And we do, of course, know that the lawyers in this case are going to keep appealing against this latest ruling and keep fighting for the stop and frisk to be banned.
We've seen stop and frisk protests going on in New York City for years now. What's the latest message now coming out of these protests after this court ruling?
Well, you know, it was really an unexpected twist, this latest ruling, Sam, because the people who have been fighting stop and frisk for years certainly hope that finally something is going to keep changing and happening. But, you know, their message is racial profiling, these stopping, frisking, questioning these people on the streets. You know, you mentioned numbers earlier. We have to say that the New York City Liberties Union says that it's actually almost 4 million stops since 2002, and in almost 90% of the cases, we're talking about communities mostly Latino and African American, and people are outraged. Take a listen to what they told us earlier today.
Stop and frisk needs to be ended because it is racist, immoral, and illegitimate. It treats Black and Latino people, especially young people, like criminals, guilty until proven innocent, if they can survive to prove their innocence.
Stop and frisk is a crime. It amounts to police stalking, intimidating, sometimes jailing, and even as much as killing people in the name of security.
And Sam, you know, people we've spoken to, they basically keep repeating the same message over and over again. They say this is the largest racial profiling program in the U.S. and certainly one of the most controversial.
Anastasia, how much do you think the fact that stop and frisk is considered unconstitutional by its critics reflect what's going on in the U.S. today more broadly on a larger scale when it comes to police?
Well, you know, certainly, yes. A lot of people do say it's unconstitutional because it brings unreasonable searches and excuse me, gets in the way of equal protection, but the activists on the ground say that it does reflect much larger attitudes in courts these days. Take a listen.
This court ruling, shows not that it's a more complicated issue and maybe there's different degrees of constitutionality, but it shows that this courts are more than fine with violating the rights of blacks and Latinos.
And certainly that's a very popular opinion out on the streets here in New York City, Sam.
So we have a mayoral election coming up Tuesday, and Bill de Blasio, the Democratic nominee, is expected to win. He's been critical of stop and frisk. If he wins, can he just end it? I mean, does this court opinion matter if he gets elected Tuesday and says we're just not doing this anymore?
Well, technically he can do that because, yeah, certainly he can step in and do that. But I think the activists are trying to make sure that this is also something backed by the legal system in case that does not happen. So certainly that's possible, and people are hoping. But we have to say that even though he has been very anti-stop and frisk throughout the campaign, he's also said that it's the particular use and the overuse of the stop and frisk program that's questionable. So we'll have to wait and see if he sticks to his words.
Interesting. RT's Anastasia Cherkina from New York. Thank you.